It's time for a Drummer Nation. Michael Vosbein, my friends call me Voz. I'm your host for Drummer Nation. Through the episodes, I try to feature my friends who are drummers and who are also industry people. You may recall the last episode was the great drumsmith Ron Dennett. This is another industry guy. Everybody digs him. Everybody knows him. He's been a fixture at Ludwig for 35 years. And he's always at the shows, always has a smile. His name is Jim Catalano. And everything Ludwig is something he knows about. So I was able to get him to sit down with me for an interview at the Chicago Drum Show. Once again, in this one, you're going to notice that if the voices sound a little chipmunky, it's because I've had to do a lot of editing to get rid of all the background noise. It is a drum show after all. And I wanted to make sure that our guests could be heard. I have some great guests coming up in the future. I'll be posting them on my website every 2 weeks. Please watch us wherever you prefer, YouTube, Facebook. You can catch it on Twitter. I have a blog. There's a Drummer Nation website. We're not hard to find. We need your hits. Help us out. Hope you enjoy the show.
Sabian presents the 2017 Meet the Masters Tour. For one day only, this is your chance to get up close and personal with the Sabian craftsmen who have made the most innovative and groundbreaking cymbals on the planet. With one-of-a-kind prototypes, on-site custom cymbal making, and a front row seat to see how your favorite cymbals are made, this is a rare opportunity you don't want to miss. Meet the Masters, coming this summer to a city near you.
Musician, designer, and award-winning innovator, Ron Dennett relentlessly pursues quality of sound. Every Dennett classic drum is crafted completely by hand, carefully assembled one at a time, and personally signed by Ron himself. The shell weights are tuned for optimal performance, giving each one inherent resonance, full-range dynamics, and a pure, rich tone. All Dennett classic snare drums feature soft, contoured beds that are deep cut to eliminate snare buzz and accommodate the use of wider 42-strand snares. Compare a Dennett with others in its class, and you'll discover that the alternative is compromise. Michael Vosbein with Drummer Nation at the Chicago Drum Show, and it's my pleasure to welcome Jim Catalano.
Hey, howdy. Good
Jim,
to be here.
Mr. Ludwig.
Yeah, I guess so. What started off as just, liking the Beatles and stuff, in 1964, February 9th, and look what happened, So now I've been with Ludwig for 35 years.
Take me back through that. When did you start and what were you doing then?
Well, you have to almost go back to, before the Beatles, into what happened on November 22nd, 1963. And how so many of all people, but especially a 10-year-old boy, was so devastated by the assassination of President Kennedy. And there was this magical convergence of time when, on February 9th, 1964, when we heard this news about this new band. But when we saw the new band on the Ed Sullivan Show, oh my. I turned to my mom and dad and I said, I'm not depressed anymore. That's it. That's what I'm going to do. And that the part for me is I just can't believe how blessed and lucky I've been. And became a drummer.
Yeah, well, for me, I'm 2 years, I was 8 years old.
Yeah.
And I think any of us around the same age had that same life-changing experience.
Oh, yeah.
And it wasn't just the fact that it was music. There was plenty of music out there. It was so joyous. And profoundly deep. And it hit us right after that punch in the gut.
That's right.
For a whole nation.
Yeah.
So what did you start off doing with that?
Well, I originally was a trumpet player, okay? And then in fifth grade, I started off as a drummer. But my parents, they were very good about doing a couple things. Number one, they wanted me to be part of the school band program. And they wanted me to take lessons. and I took lessons from a jazz drummer who's still alive today named Cootie Harris. And Cootie Harris, he did the New York scene back in the 50s and the early 60s, etc. And he became my teacher when he came to a little town called Meadville, PA, to kind of pull away from the jazz scene. But he taught, and I got to take lessons with a real cat who did the scene, who knew Charlie Parker and John Coltrane, did sessions with them and gigs with them. And it was pretty amazing. And then just simply, I got involved in drum corps too, so you build your chops up doing that kind of stuff. And then, but always studying music, always loving music. And then wanting to be a full percussionist. I didn't just do the drum set. I played mallets. I learned to play timpani and vibes. And I'm a jazz vibes player today, as well as being a drummer.
I've seen some of your videos.
Thanks.
Yeah, wonderful drummer. So the key to this is that you've been a business guy with Ludwig for how many years now?
Well, I've been in the industry, the drum industry, for 39 years, starting my 40th year now.
Wow.
And
but what I was getting at is you've always kept the flame going as a musician, too.
Yes. Yeah, it was one of those things where, you dance with the one that brought you. And I was in it for the music.
That's how we all got started.
That's right. And for some reason, I had the presence of mind to never let the complexities of the business world take away my joy for making music.
Well, I've known you many years, and you're always a joyous cat, regardless of the ups and downs of Ludwig as a company or the music business as an industry. Everybody knows Jim Catalano for his smile and his gracious charm.
Well, I feel really lucky. And one of the greatest things for me was joining the company Ludwig in 1983, getting to meet Bill Ludwig. And then he became my mentor. It was like I said, Mr. Ludwig, you ran this company for all these years. Can you guide me through this? I was a young 29-year-old guy.
What were you doing?
I was the marketing director for Ludwig at 29 years old in 1983.
Did you have any marketing experience?
Well, I had 5 years of previous experience. In 78, I worked as a product manager for Premier Drums. And then I had 2 years as the Slingerland advertising manager. So I had 5 years of experience, plus being, a drummer and stuff.
But you didn't have any formal ad agency.
I still don't.
Stuff. Well, don't tell me. You're doing great with it.
And so the chief, and Mr. Ludwig, he sort of said, Jimmy, I'm going to walk you through this. And I almost became his alter ego in some ways, in that he sold the company and was retired, but he was able to kind of live out parts of the things that he did to build the company and build the brand and keep it viable. And he was able to help guide me through some of that for 21 years, I believe. That's how long we actually had an association until he got too sick and kind of old to do things. And then, of course, he passed in 2008. But I've always felt extremely blessed that I had, number one, a chance to walk with a legend, and number two, that he taught me. And there's not many people in this business that got to study with the guy that, his dad started it, but the guy that was the real guy.
American originals.
Absolutely.
Legends.
Yeah.
And so you also work with some great artists, too.
Oh, yeah. And that's the other thing is, I'm, as a player, I know where I fit in, okay? I know I'm not Roy Haynes.
I say that often to people. I say, I'm an adequate drummer, man. I'm a good drummer. I can make a living playing drums, and I always have. But when I work with these world-class guys, I know where I stand.
Oh, yeah. Like as a vibes player and stuff, I'm a fairly proficient vibes player. But I know Gary Burton.
I hear you.
And I know where I stand.
Keeps us honest,
and it's nothing like Gary Burton.
Yeah, but every now and then I have delusions of adequacy.
Yeah.
You get those special nights where it just comes together.
Yeah.
And the hell with the rest of it.
That's right. Yeah. So, but still just loving the music, but loving the industry too. This is my family.
So warm in this industry.
I think so. I think the drum industry is just a little bit different than all the other industries out there. Other instrument categories,
right.
From guitar to band
it's more
instruments.
like a brotherhood.
I think so.
You look at Pasek, it's a 3-day love-in.
Oh yeah.
You know Barry Greenspan, right?
Oh, yeah, extremely well.
From New York.
Drummer's World.
Right. Well, I ran into him at NAMM a few years after he closed the shop.
Yeah.
I said, Barry, what are you doing here? He said, I don't know, man. These are my peeps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Barry's one of the first guys I ever met in New York City in 1978 when I started in the business. He was one of those guys, again, not too much older than me, maybe a couple years, but he was actually able to give me a lot of guidance, through this business.
He was something of a mentor to me too as well.
Yeah.
Great people in this.
Oh,
industry.
yeah.
So now Ludwig is a brand that's iconic. Has
108 years old.
It's 108 drum brands out there probably.
Yeah.
What makes a Ludwig drum or a Ludwig brand? I mean, I'm a kid and I don't know Ludwig. I say, why would I buy a Ludwig kit?
Well, when you think about your favorite drummers, the people that started this thing and that became the iconic drummers, their brand of choice was generally Ludwig. And so what my job as that marketing director person for Ludwig for all those years was that I had to keep an eye on the future, but with homage and respect for the past, knowing that if Ludwig strayed too far from what brought us there, that we would not be accepted as well. And that includes finishes, lug design, so many things. And so we were able to find that happy balance. And of course, as all businesses, you have this in your business world. There's up years, there's down years.
It's not necessarily related because of your specific business. The industry has.
The industry, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, the recession of 2008, it affected 2009, but the recession of 2008 had a tremendous impact negatively on all the music industry, but especially the drum industry.
How have you seen the industry change with all these decades of experience?
Well,
what's different about it now?
Well, the main thing is that when I think about when I started in 78, it pretty much was, this is by relative size too, Ludwig, Slingerland, Rogers, Gretsch, and then a little bit of Sonar and Premier. Okay, and I worked for Premier, so I knew that. Okay.
Those are all great companies.
Yeah. Now you have, I believe the number is around 164 actual drum companies, not just series. I'm talking about companies. Now, they may not all make drum sets. Some make only snare drums.
Well, I'll go you one more. They may not all make drums.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. Ludwig makes its own drums.
Yes, we make our own shells, and we have all along.
Right. But, there are a lot of companies that buy shells, and they buy pieces from this company and that, and
Yeah.
it might be a great drum, but it's, they didn't make it.
Yeah. There's something unique about the sound. I think that's another thing of why people still play Ludwig. Not just the association of the artist, but the fact that we're making a quality product in almost the old world way. Even though technically there's a lot of new things. We have a lot of robot type machinery, like CNC machines and things like that weren't part of the old world. But we're still able to make them look like and be similar to the old world way of making drums.
But better drums.
Yeah. That's so important. I truly believe that the drums that we make today are so much better than the drums we made in the 90s and in the 80s and probably in the 70s.
We're a vintage show, man.
Well, I know that, but hey, I respect the vintage market. But
I understand completely what you're saying.
But we're creating today's collector drums today, new drums to go forward.
It's like cars, when you put robotics in, the tolerances are so much better. The space between moving parts, It's just a better product because of technology. But you still have the retro appeal. Now, I know this guy, Questlove, is doing wonders for your company.
He is. Questlove transcends drums, transcends music. He's a celebrity. And
we don't have a hell of a lot of those, do we?
We do not. I mean, Buddy Rich almost was there.
Well,
okay?
they were celebrities.
They were celebrities. That's a long time ago. And Questlove is such an iconic figure. First of all, he's such a good person.
I don't know.
And such a kind, gentle guy.
Great.
But he cares about education. He cares about kids coming up and getting involved. That's why we do the pocket kit, which is, for 5-year-olds to 8-year-olds. And that's why we do the breakbeats kit, which everyone thinks, well, the breakbeats kit, that's something that's for the beginner. No, it isn't. I know a lot of professionals and guys that are doing gigging like I do, they play the breakbeats kit.
Right.
Why? Because it's lightweight and it sounds good.
You don't have to carry it. It doesn't kill you when you go up 3 flights of stairs behind the embeds.
That's right. And so,
but it does sound great.
and it doesn't help when you're, or it doesn't hurt when you're on TV 5 nights a week.
Right. And let's also talk about the fact that years ago, when you were 10 years old and you wanted a kit, you had a 22-inch bass drum with power toms. These kids would have to stand up to play them.
Yeah.
you know. So a lot of that is just appealing to smaller guys and gals that can play
Sure.
these drums when they're younger.
Yeah, but
But
I think
it's
also
still a pro
sonically,
kit.
with the types of drum heads we have today and the different kind of rings and things like for bass drums, I mean, you know, I've always said that I think the ringed bass drum head on front and back is one of the greatest inventions of all time. We never knew that you didn't need to put bellows and things like that in bass drums, but they could sound good open with the right heads.
Right. And how many kids ruin their kits by taking off the front head and throwing all that stuff away?
Yeah, well, there's a whole
Couldn't
era
find it.
of that,
Yeah.
you know, and single-headed power toms or concert toms. They're sort of coming back here and there, but more of a novelty type thing. But yeah.
So what's going on next with Ludwig, or do you have to kill me if you tell me?
Well, you know, Ludwig's really made a strong focus in our USA branded products. Okay, and so snare drums, getting into 8-inch deep snare drums. That's something new for Ludwig. We have never done that. We wanted to, but
It's sevens, right?
we did 5s and 6.5s.
Oh,
And now we're doing 8s too, in Black Beauty and our bronze and our copper phonic and things like that. And they're doing quite well. So it's a new sound, you know, just something different from Ludwig. But we're a strong focus on classic maple and legacy branded products because it's USA made. And we do really, really well in that category.
I have some of those. The classic maple stuff of yours, and
Yeah.
also the the Black Beauties have done great throughout time.
Oh, yeah. I mean, probably the most recorded drum, the most widely owned drum would be the Supraphonic.
I have one of those too.
Yeah.
It's like everybody's got one in their kit somewhere.
Sure. You know, and you know, one of the biggest challenges I had as a young marketing person in 1983 was I said, you know, we need to start bringing some things in offshore. Now, that's really hard being an American branded, like a Ludwig, an iconic American brand. And we had to start bringing in hardware. And then eventually we had to bring in drums, too, for the lower end market.
Meet certain price point.
You have to hit a certain price point. It's like, you know, today we have what's called the Element Evolution, which is, a foreign-made product that we bring into the USA to our specifications. And it's done really quite well. And one of the nice things about it is a partnership that we've had actually with putting some ZBT symbols with it. And so that has helped a lot.
Oh, what's it?
Power branding.
Oh,
You know,
that's a good
taking a
idea.
good power brand from one type and another, and then even more so, putting Remo heads on it. Power branding again. So Remo, Ludwig, Zildjian, all together. The three originators.
At a low end price point, and you
Right.
play the same brand's Ringo played.
Yeah, exactly. And so, you know, so that's an exciting thing to be talking about. And, you know, we're just really happy this market's always changing. It's very dynamic. And we're happy to be part of it, but growing within it too. And that's the part that, you know, for a brand that is 108 years old, our job is to make sure that it doesn't get stale. And we've added some great people to our company from the
Terry?
management. Terry Bissett, you
I
know,
was just talking to him.
I mean, you know,
He's great.
I've known him my entire career. And, you know, and so,
Fantastic.
and then we have our he's been with us for several years now, but Uli Salazar, he's our artist relations manager. The thing is, he's not just an artist guy, he's a product guy, okay? He knows the product. The thing is, he connects with the young artists. Look, we love the older artists, you know? Alex playing Ludwig, you know, Ringo playing Ludwig, Alan White, okay? Butch Miles as the jazz drummer, one of my favorites. I mean, if I had to play like anybody, I'd want to play like Butch Miles, okay? But Uli is the guy that can identify who the next shakers and movers are better than I can.
That's hard to do.
I mean, as an almost 64-year-old guy, I'm not going to necessarily know who are the cool kids coming along, okay? But Uli does. And then also is, you know, spreading things is to, you know, other ethnic type of music, you know, Latino music. Ludwig's gotten really big with the country artists.
I know.
Where, you know, something
big in
that
Nashville.
you would think that Nashville is kind of owned by the companies that are there in Nashville. And Ludwig actually owns probably more of Nashville than they do. And so that's
There's
something
a
to
lot
be
of
proud
stuff
of.
in Nashville.
Yeah.
There are a lot of good companies there.
There are, yeah. So it's really great to have a good team of people. and making some modern advancements in the factory also. And then social media. This is something that, you wouldn't think that the old guy would handle the social media for the company.
Social media for me and for several other companies.
Yeah.
I'm 61.
And that has just been great. And we're doing it all without boosting anything. So we've been actually able to do it, make it very organic.
Exactly.
And we're growing all the time, posting all the time, and getting incredible exposure. But we can tell from all of the Google Analytics that we get on our social media platforms that we're doing something right. And, to have that, again, that veteran old 108-year-old brand, and with social media done by, an older guy too, but I have some new help. I have some guys that are brand new to the company who are kind of social media experts. They're younger. They're in their early 20s. They know more about it in a way than I do. I know the product stuff. And then it's like a great synergy that happens together.
Yes, all of that. You also have the marketing expertise.
That's right.
And the seniority and maturity to put it all together.
Yeah.
Well, keep doing it, man.
Oh, yeah.
You can't retire. Ludwig won't be the same without Jim Catalano
Well,
there.
I'm pretty lucky that I get to, be in this business that I love, playing drums, which I love.
I know, me too.
Okay.
Here.
Very
All right,
good.
man. Thanks for doing the show.
All right,
we'll talk
thank
soon.
you. All right.
This is your host, Michael Vosspine, and I want to thank our friends at Atlanta Pro Percussion, Danette Classic Drums, Sabian Cymbals, and Classic Drummer Magazine. We'll see you again in 2 weeks.